is Zaina, and I'm with Child Creativity Lab, and today we are going to be making a wish-inspired Halloween crystal science experiment. In this experiment, we are going to be learning about evaporation and the elements sodium and chloride, which together make table salt. So this experiment involves taking pipe cleaner shapes, putting them in salt water, and waiting for that water to evaporate, forming salt crystals around the pipe cleaner shape. So first, let's go over the materials that you're going to need. There's actually only 6. You're going to need some pipe cleaners. You're going to need salt. You're going to need some type of yarn or string. You're going to need a mason jar or any type of jar. You're going to need some clothespins and water. So the first step to this experiment is you're gonna grab your pipe cleaners and you're gonna form them into whatever shapes that you want. Since Halloween is coming up, I thought that I would form mine into like some Halloween or spooky themed shapes. I made a witch's broom, I made a cat, kind of, and I made a moon. But you can make whatever you want. Just make sure that your shape can fit inside of the mason jar with plenty of room, because when the salt crystals attach to it, it's going to double in size, and you don't want to not be able to get it out. So now that you have your shapes, the next step is to grab your mason jar and grab your yarn. You are going to need to measure out a piece of yarn that is about the size of your mason jar. So I'm going to measure mine and then cut it a few inches above your mason jar, so right about here. So now that you have your piece of yarn, you are going to grab one of your shapes and tie the piece of yarn at the top of the shape. You can just do a single knot or a double knot. Now that you have it and it's secured, you are going to take your clothespin and clip the top of the yarn. Make sure that the yarn is in the middle of the clothespin, as far into the middle as you can get it, because you want your shape to hang without touching any of the sides. If, like yours, your piece of yarn is too long, just lower it until it is correct. So once you've done this for all your shapes, we're gonna move on to the next step. Next step, we are gonna be boiling some water, so go grab your parents if you need their help. I'm using 3 mason jars for this project, so I'm going to use about 3.5 cups of water. Depending on how many mason jars you're using, you can add more or less water. So you're going to add your water to a large pot, and you're just going to wait till it boils. So pause the video and come back when your water is boiling. So once your water is boiling like mine, you're going to go ahead and turn down the heat a bit, and then you're going to grab your salt. In this step, you're going to try and mix in as much salt and dissolve as much salt into your water as possible. So you're going to want to add in your salt bit by bit and wait for it to dissolve, and then add in more, and just try to get as much salt dissolved into the water as possible. So all my salt is now dissolved in my water, so I'm going to shut the heat off and wait for the water to cool down before we go on to the next step. Now that your water has cooled down a bit, go ahead and transfer it to something that you would think it would be easier to pour with, or you can just pour directly from the pot. We're gonna pour this water into our mason jars. I went ahead and just put down a towel so if it spilled, it would be fine, and you could do it over the sink if you want. So you're gonna take your string and pipe cleaner shape out of the mason jar, put off to the side, and you're going to pour this water until the brim or the top of the mason jar. It doesn't have to be that high, but you just want to make sure that your entire shape is submerged in the water when you put it in. But my shape is completely submerged in the water, and it's not touching any of the sides of the bottle, which is how you want it. So once you have all 3 of your mason jars with their shapes in them and with the water in them, you're ready for the next step. This is the last and final step of the experiment. You're going to find the sunniest place in your house, maybe next to a window or maybe even in your backyard, to leave your jars for 2 to 3 days. And this is where the cool science part of this experiment happens as well. As the sun is shining down into your bottles, it's going to cause the water in them to evaporate. And the 2 elements, sodium and chloride, that are in the table salt we dissolved in them, are going to do something cool. So sodium and chloride are atoms that form together to form table salt. These atoms share a pair of electrons and form an ionic bond, which is what makes it table salt. While in this solution, sodium and chloride are separated by the water, but as the water begins to evaporate, sodium and chloride begin to bond together. First they form a singular molecule, and then those singular molecules form together and slowly they shape around your pipe cleaner and form the salt crystals that you're gonna see. So I'm gonna leave my bottles here for 2 to 3 days, and I'm gonna check back and show you what's happened. Hi guys, it's been 3 days since I left my experiment to sit in the sun, and now my salt crystals are fully formed around my pipe cleaner, giving me a really cool Halloween themed crystal. I had a lot of fun doing this experiment, and I really hope you guys did too. Hopefully you learned a bit about evaporation and sodium and chloride. Thank you so much for watching, and have a happy Halloween!